Welcome to ground control, and look what just showed up at the ground control RC hangar. I have the Eachine Mini P40 Warhawk. The paint scheme on this plane is awesome. It definitely has a Warbird paint scheme. And this little 400 millimeter wingspan Warbird has some really cool features that I'm going to go over while we discuss this first look at this plane. But first I want to show you everything that comes in the box. Of course, you get the aircraft. The only assembly that was required on the plane was just pushing the landing gear, the main landing gear, into the little locks in the front on the wing. They just slide in the front, you push them back, and they have a little locking tab in the back. And I am really impressed with the landing gear that they put on this microplane. It is not like the landing gear on the other mini Warbirds that I have reviewed. These are very good, and they roll extremely well. So that they definitely have a landing gear upgrade on this plane. Even the tail wheel is a very nice quality tail wheel. These main wheels have plastic hubs on them that fit nice and snug on the wire axles, and the wire axle is a little bit higher grade, you know, a little more sturdy than the other ones that I've seen. And these front wheels, they don't wobble back and forth like the other landing gear that I've seen. They fit nice and snug and they roll smoothly. So I am very happy about seeing upgrades on these landing gear, because with this one I might be able to land out there in that rough terrain where I have to land without it flipping over on me when I come in for a landing, because most of the wheels are so poor quality that they won't roll. As soon as you land, it's like you have the brakes on and it noses over. But with this one, I'm very impressed with the upgrade in the landing gear. It comes with a manual. The manual explains everything about the plane, all the features, about the transmitter, how to bind to it, all that information. It's a very informative manual. Mine came with two 1S 400 milliamp hour LiPos. These are the LiPos that have the little flat white connector. I've heard this called by various names. I've heard it called a Walkera connector, a Lossy connector, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the little white flat connector. These are 1S 400 milliamp hour. I got two of them. Of course, I have a ton of these, so I'll be able to keep this in the air all day long if I want to. When I took it out of the box, and I was impressed with this too. When I took it out of the box, it had a two-blade prop attached to it. But, okay, so here's the two-blade prop that was attached to it. But it also came with another spare two-blade prop, just like the one that was installed on it. And it also came with this three-blade prop. So, you know what? The three-blade prop, I think, looks a lot cooler on this plane than the two-blade prop. So I wanted to do the first flight session with it, the first test flight, with the three-blade prop on it. Alright, and I wanted to see how well it performs with this three-blade prop. And then the next time I take it out for the second test flight, I will put the two-blade prop on it and see which one provides the best performance, and then that's the one that I would stick with. Alright, so the transmitter takes 4 AA batteries. I've already got 4 AA batteries in it. I've already checked everything out to make sure everything worked, and yes, it does. You've got a 3-position switch on the top right-hand side of the transmitter, and this is your gyro modes. And if it's all the way forward, it's in expert mode, and then the mid mode, the center position, is intermediate mode, and then all the way toward me will be beginner mode, will be full gyro stabilization. This one has the stunt button on it, so if you're flying along and you want to do a roll with the stunt button, you're going to push the button down, you'll hear a series of beeps after you push the button. While you hear the beeps, you want to either push the aileron stick to the left, to do a left roll, to the right, to do a right roll. If you want to do a loop, and then after pushing the button while it's beeping, you want to pull the elevator stick down and it will perform a loop. Okay, so you have, and they have a lanyard hook on this transmitter. I wish they all did that. I love it when these transmitters come with a lanyard hook so that I could strap it around my neck. It has an aileron trim button. It has an elevator trim button. It states that in the manual it states that the elevator trim button is non-functional. I don't know why that would be. Maybe that is a misprint. We'll check that and see. And then the button that you have where the throttle trim would be, this is your U-turn button. So if you want to use the U-turn button, all right, after you bind up to the plane, but before you arm the motor, you want to point the plane in the direction in which you're going to launch it, and then push that U-turn button, and you'll hear a beep. And you'll also see the rudder move. Okay, and that is verification that it has recorded direction in which the plane is going to be launched. Okay, so you need to do that every time you power up the plane. If you want to use the U-turn button, you need to record it in the transmitter, the direction that the plane is going to be launched in. So then while you're flying, if it gets too far away and you lose orientation with it, you can push that U-turn button and the plane will turn in the opposite direction in which it was launched. And then when it comes into view, where you can tell, and you want to take control of it, again, all you have to do is move the stick, and then it will disable the U-turn function and you'll be in control of the plane again. So very simple transmitter with some cool features on it. And sometimes the aerobatic button is kind of fun to use. I never use the U-turn button. I always do close proximity flying. So I'm not going to lose orientation on it to the point where I can't tell whether it's going away from me or coming toward me. So that's not a problem. I don't have to worry about the U-turn button. Okay, so, all right, so it comes with the manual, the transmitter, the props I already spoke about, the 2 LiPos. It comes with a USB charger and it comes with a spare prop adapter. This plane does have the breakaway props. I think that is one of the best things that they have come out with for these brush motor and gearbox planes, because it saves a lot of motors and it saves a lot of gearboxes. I know some people get a little annoyed with it because when the prop hits something, you know, the prop comes off. But I would rather that happen than strip the gears on the gearbox or burn up the motor. So I am happy that that happens when my prop hits something. I want that to happen when my prop impacts something. Okay, so I am going to go with the stock setup on the control linkage until I have a chance to put it in manual mode and see if it's twitchy or not. Typically what I have to do with these microplanes when I put them in manual mode, they're usually too abrupt on the controls and I usually have to tone them down. But every plane's a little different, so I will wait until I have a chance to put this in full manual mode and test it out before I decide to change any of the linkage. Of course, you've only got a single hole on the servo arm for the ailerons, and on the servo horns they're connected in the center hole, and it is the same thing with the elevator and the rudder. They are both connected to the center hole on the control horns. So we'll see if that's too abrupt or not. Alright, we talked about most of the functions on the transmitter, but let's talk about a couple more. Okay, so what you want to do is what I do is I power up the plane, make sure it's on a level surface so when the gyro initializes, make sure that you have your gyro mode in either intermediate or beginner mode when you plug the battery into the plane, okay, so that it initializes properly. Once you're bound up to the plane with the transmitter, you know, plug the battery into the plane, turn your transmitter on, and then what I suggest you do before you fly it the first time is calibrate the gyro. So before you unlock the throttle, once you're bound up to the plane, if you hold both of the sticks down to the bottom corners and out, and hold it there for about 3 seconds to recalibrate the gyro once you've got it sitting on a nice flat level surface, okay? And then to unlock the throttle, you'll move the throttle stick all the way up, you'll hear a beep, pull it back down immediately, you'll hear another beep, and then you'll have throttle control. Okay, and I would recommend launching it in full stabilization mode the first time, which means that the stick, the 3-position switch is going to be pushed all the way forward toward you. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's go ahead and connect the battery to it. And then I want to show you a couple more features of this plane that I haven't seen before that I think are really, really cool. The battery lead's a little short. I'm sure they make it that way so that it'll fit inside the battery bay. But you want to make sure that the plane is on its wheels, all right, when you plug the battery into it. Okay, so the battery's plugged up. I got it set nice and flat and level, okay? All right, so now that it's initialized, I'm going to go ahead and slip the battery into the battery bay. And close the hatch. And it's a snug fit with a 400 milliamp hour 1S LiPo. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to power on the transmitter. Okay, and it beeped, and I got a solid light. When you first turn it on, it'll be blinking. Okay, so now I'm bound up to the plane. All right, so now I want to calibrate the gyro. Hey, how about that? We're calibrated. Okay, now I move the throttle stick all the way up, all the way down. You heard the beep and then the beep. Okay, so now I should have throttle control. Whoa, looky there. All right, so that means we're ready to throw it in the air. Okay, are you ready? No, I'm not gonna do it in here. I'm not gonna do my helicopter crash inside the house. Okay, so a couple of cool features, and I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this so I don't accidentally throttle it up and tear something up on it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it now that we've done all that. Power off the transmitter. There's a couple of really cool features that I want to show you that I haven't seen before. They're starting to make these planes so that you can actually work on them instead of having to perform surgery to get to components. There is a little foam panel right here on top of the motor, and this little foam panel comes out, and guess what? You can get to the motor to replace the motor if you need to replace the motor. How fantastic is that? I would like to see them do this kind of stuff from now on. It would make it so much easier. And you just push it back down in there. Okay, well that's not all. That's the first feature. Guess what? You also have a foam panel down here where, guess what? You can get to the receiver board and the servos. Now, one of the things I love about that is it was always difficult to change the linkage on these control horns. So you know what this is going to provide? This is going to provide a much easier way of being able to adjust the linkage, because you can take your little screwdriver and you can pull the servo arm off of it. That will make it easy to get the control linkage out of the control horns and adjust them. And on the rudder and the elevator servo, let me see, on the elevator servo, it has the linkage connected to the innermost hole. So there's just 2 holes on these servo arms. But the elevator linkage has the linkage connected to the inner hole on the elevator servo and the outer hole on the rudder. So, and I always like having a lot of rudder, you know, for doing stall turns and stuff. I do like the fact that they put it on the inner hole on the elevator, because the elevators have always been twitchy for me in full manual mode. So maybe this one in stock configuration won't be so twitchy. Maybe I won't have to change the linkage, but we'll find out. But I thought that was so cool that they actually put removable foam panels in the bottom of this fuselage so that you could actually get to the step to replace it or work on it. So I'm really happy about that. That is absolutely awesome. I'm just straightening my aileron servo back up. Okay, so one thing I was curious about, because it's in the manual, it said that the rudder trim was non-functional. Let's see if that's true or not. I hope that's a misprint. I would certainly think that we would be able to adjust trim, and I've got it in full stabilization mode. Okay, so now we're bound up. I'm not going to arm the motor, but what I want to see is let me put it in manual mode. I think that's manual mode. Let's see. Okay, so the switch pushed all the way forward. Yeah, that's manual mode. Okay, so let me see here if the rudder is moving or not. Yeah, you've got rudder trim. So that was a misprint. That was a misprint. That was a misprint in the manual. Whoa, whoa. Okay, well there goes my prop. You see what I mean? About removing the battery. There's a primary example of why you need to remove the battery. I'm glad I did that so you guys could see that you need you need to remove the battery so things like that don't happen. Okay, so anyway, I'm just checking my control surface movement, and I accidentally hit the throttle. You see how that happens? Now I did that on purpose so you guys would see that, okay? That wasn't a mistake on my part. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that all the control surfaces were moving in the proper direction. Left, right, up, down. Okay, now, let me put it in gyro mode and make sure, yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so everything is correct in the proper direction. And you want to check that out too, just to make sure. Hold on a second, let me get my prop. I don't want to damage this before I have a chance to get it in the air. Okay, so yeah, so it just snaps right back on there to make sure. Yeah, we're good to go. Okay, so anyway, after I post this video, within a couple of days, according to the forecast, I should have the weather to put this in the air. We are going to test all the functions on it. We're going to fly it with the 3-blade prop the first time we take it out. The second time we take it out, we're going to test it with a 2-blade prop. We're going to figure out which one is the best, which one gives us the best performance. And then once we perform those 2 tests, make sure everything's working, and put it in manual mode and test that out. And then I'm going to see if I can bind it up with the TX16S, and if it does, the third time I take it out, we're going to be flying it with the TX16S, which will be awesome. Awesome. So I'm really looking forward to getting this plane in the air. I really think some of these features that they've added to this plane are fantastic for replacing components on this plane. I love the landing gear, the upgraded landing gear that they have put on here. Absolutely fantastic. So anyway, that is my first look, my initial review of this plane. Stay tuned as we will be throwing this in the air. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.